Yay. Mm. Welcome, Faith. Welcome to Running Strong Mind Body Connection. Today, my guest is Faith Rumer, and I'm so excited to share what Faith has to offer to the world. And so, a lot of my guests are runners. A lot of the people that may listen to this are runners, but I think what you offer is valuable to everybody. So, welcome to Running Strong Mind Body Connection.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. It's really what your work is doing in the world is beautiful too. Having
Yeah.
that heart, mind, body center.
Exactly. And you're even part of that world. So there's so many factors to that. So let's start this off if you would just share a little bit about yourself and who you are and where you're at, what you do.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I am in Los Angeles, and I am a coach. I am a certified life coach. I am also a voice coach. I'm an author and a speaker, and I've worked with a lot of actors and performers in the past because that's what my background is an actor and a singer and all of that.
Oh,
And I've
wow.
coached them for such a long time. And they all have to go through this, like anything in perform, like athletes, they have to perform. There's this thing going on that they have to have their mind, body, spirit approach all in a line, or they can't really access the real magic that they have to bring into the world. And that's
Right.
about all of us. So
Yeah.
I work presently, not only do I work with actors and I work with the people who are um, on like NBC commentators. I work with people who are CEOs of large companies, but all kinds of things like that. I worked with creative professionals, and most of them want to be seen and heard in a more powerful way. They feel
Mm-hmm.
stuck, they feel overwhelmed, they struggle with confidence, and especially in their speaking and when they present. So
Sure.
I help them find their authentic voice and create their dynamic presence, which is what I've always working with people is when you walk into the room, who are you bringing into the room? What's your essence? And then also, what's your voice, your authentic voice? Everybody has a different voice, and our voice is our calling card when we step into a room. Um,
Sure.
Also, the other thing is develop really emotional resilience. And
Fascinating.
yeah, and that's about really it's an integrated body, mind, spirit approach. And when I work with the emotions, we explore the emotions through using vocal energy and releasing our mental blocks and accessing the emotions through what I would call the body's emotional energy centers.
What do you identify as the body's emotional energy centers?
Well, it's an interesting thing because all of our nerves are run up and down our spine. That's the energy of our body. It runs up and down
Sure.
our spine. So in traditional in spiritual traditions and in yoga, people will call those centers. They call them chakras.
Right.
And it's just a name that we can call them, but it's really where energy is collected in our body. And
Mm-hmm.
um, and it correlates to different centers of our body. So the tailbone is your what we would call your root energy center. And if I
Sure.
call it energy center, I think people have a kind of relate to it better on some,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Right.
because right at the root in our body, that's where we feel powerful and safe.
Yep.
Yeah. It's where if we feel disconnected from that or we feel kind of light, sometimes I worked with a guy who was going to go meet the Queen of Jordan, right? And he wanted to he created these amazing installations, art installations throughout the world, and he wanted to put one in Jordan. So he was going to go meet with her, and he was going to go meet with her. He's going to get in a room with her and walk over. And I said, well, come talk to me. Walk to me like you would walk to her and introduce yourself. So he came over and he walked to me. And he was a really heart-centered person. So he was moving, he was walking from his heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was light, and he didn't have any energy that said, I'm a dynamic person. It was very light, like he wasn't confident.
Ah, okay.
So I said, I want you to walk to me and I want you to lead with your hips instead of your heart.
Lead with your hips.
Lead with your hips.
Interesting.
Your
Okay.
hips do the walking.
Right. That's true.
Now let your hips do the walking. And you think about it in sports, because I'm a big tennis, player as well.
Okay.
When we play tennis, you get power from your hips,
Right.
right? Basketball players power from their hips as they, and runners the same thing, right?
Right. Exactly. I was just going to say that. Yeah. Because we run, it's hip movement
Yep.
and
Yep.
the upper body just sort of stays there and flows with the lower body from hips
Mhm.
down. Yep.
Yeah. So when I asked him to walk towards me with using his hips first, he laughed. He thought that was really funny. But as soon as he tried it, man, was it a difference. He felt powerful. He felt like in charge, and he could still be a heart-centered person, but
Right.
of that centeredness.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
So that
fascinating.
isn't that it's so fascinating. It's so great. And so our emotions kind of collect there. Power and safety, that's where those feelings are in that
Okay.
body, right?
Right. And so do you identify those emotions through all the different energy centers and
Uh-huh.
how do you do that?
Well, this is an interesting thing. When I was teaching my acting class, I was trying to get the actors to find their feelings. And I have to say to you that this kind of came as just this big wisdom idea. Like it was like an intuitive hit. Oh, every center has different emotions. And if we can get in there and feel those and work with them, we can access them. And here's a really easy one for us to access and think about is our core, right? So when we get anxious or worried or
Yep.
doubt, butterflies in our stomach, what we call that, right?
Right.
Isn't that where we feel that? Panic attacks.
Right.
So it's like contracted energy in our core.
Sure.
But when we're confident, our core is open.
Mm-hmm.
The energy is open. So, what if we thought about emotions not as being like feelings? Because it's like, what is a feeling, right? But what if it's just energy that we can play with?
Um, Emotions are energy.
Yeah, yeah.
They're definitely energy. And so what I'm sort of hearing from you too, though, is that energy can move from different centers in your body depending kind of like what you're focusing on. So with your example was he was heart centered and that's soft and gentle and calming and inviting, but when you shift that energy to like you said the hips, even in that energy center, that's where your power is in
Yeah,
essence.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's where you're because that power comes with confidence, right? Um
It does. Confidence, I think, is our self-confidence is right here. And
yeah,
that power, when we can really, it's like when I watch people kind of like lift at the gym, and they're lifting from their hips and everything they have to, and their core. There's
right.
a power center there, and they do have some confidence. It feels like that triggers the confidence, doesn't it?
I don't even think I would ever realize that, but it comes with being because I lift at the gym. I started off with lifting weights when I was very young, having three babies, and I thought, well, I got to be strong to raise these three kids.
Uh,
So,
Yeah, yeah.
but I was very adamant, and it's probably along the same line of what you're saying, me not even being aware of it, because I was very adamant on form.
Hmm.
And then that form is keeping the body very centered on doing whatever exercise I may be doing and not getting out of that form because then, in a human world, it would be just, pain or an injury. It would lead to
Yeah.
injury.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we just like in the core of our body, we have that contracted energy that feels like worry and doubt.
Right.
It's open, we feel confident. I always say it's those, that, hey, I got this. Tony Soprano, right?
So expand on, you were talking about emotions, expand on that. What I realized And as kids, we don't learn our emotions.
No, no, but
Kids, we do not learn, especially boys,
right.
not to show emotions. Boys don't cry. That's the mental part of it, is where we create all those
Yeah.
inner
Yeah.
critics in our head. And I found, even for myself, working with my clients early on in my coaching life, nobody had any idea what an emotion was.
Yep. And it's vague, so it's interesting because I feel upset. Well, what does that mean? Does that feel like worry, anxiety? Does it feel like irritation? Does it feel like sadness? It's all different things, isn't it? And
Right. Yeah. Or even I'm mad. That's a very general thing.
yeah, and
And
so here's the thing too that I try to keep myself doing, and sometimes I fall back into the bad habit. But instead of saying I am mad, I want to say I feel mad.
there you go.
Right. I was working with this woman and we were working on anger and rage in the course that I teach. And she was like, I don't want to be an angry woman. I'm like, you're not an angry woman. You just feel angry sometimes. Sometimes you feel mad.
That's a
And
good analogy because we're taking that into our identity.
yep,
You're
yep,
taking that of the making just that you're owning that an I am statement, and you're taking that into this is who you are, and that is not truly who you are. Because in
it's
the core of who we are is love.
yeah, yeah, right, right. And we could say that we feel love, but it's love is not an emotion. It's a state of being.
Right. So what emotion do you believe would lead to that feeling of that state of being of love?
Well, I would say that when we're in all of that, all of the centers are open, where none of them are blocked. So if we had that base of our spine where that power and safety is not where we want to feel power and safe, if that's contracted because something happens in our life, something
Right.
happens, say someone cut you off on the freeway, right? Do you feel powerful or safe anymore? No. So your brain makes a thought like, oh my God, I don't feel safe. That I need to teach that guy a lesson. That creates a chemical in our brain, which then gets into
Right.
our body. And that's anger, rage, irritation, could be annoyance. And we feel that.
Yep.
And if we don't allow ourselves to go in there and feel it and express it in some way. I like to use the voice to express it and use it because I think the voice is vibrational energy, and emotions are a vibrational energy, and you can use it to move energy. So because if you thought I feel mad, you just think that thought. But if you say it, I feel mad, is a different thing. Or even thinking I feel confident.
Right.
I kind of feel confident. But if I say it, I feel confident.
So
It,
the vibration of your voice,
yep.
because when we keep the stuff in our head, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yes, that's because all of the good stuff is in our entire body, right?
Right.
Our head is the brain that wants to take charge of everything,
Right.
right? And if we're up at our head and that's where we are, we really don't access our heart.
Right.
We don't access our confidence, and we don't access our power.
Very true. And I was reading something about that today too, of when we're in our head, and you
Yeah.
mentioned that word of control, our brain wants to control everything.
Yeah.
And that's usually fear-based.
Mm-hmm.
Some fear behind that. But when we can exit the brain and the thoughts and get back into the body and feeling the energy in our body, that energy is feeding more to the health of our body
Yeah.
and the well-being of ourselves. And then the words that come through our voice will come from the energy in our body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have a really centered voice, Karen, and it feels really good. And it's probably because of your work that you do, that you centered yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do too. Thank you.
It's my job. I kind of try to work on it. Well, we were talking when we first came on about like all of the different kinds of emotions that people,
Right.
they can't articulate what it is. And like when I work with my actors, if they're in a scene, we have to get down to the very nuances of that so that they can bring that into a scene and make it interesting and not just general. But that's true in our own life. So if we wanted to communicate with somebody and just say, I'm just upset with you, that doesn't help really the other person or myself. But if I could say I'm feeling annoyed, or I'm feeling irritated, or I'm
Hmm.
feeling angry right now, or I'm feeling nervous and anxious, those are,
Yeah. So what I hear you just did in shifting that was moving away from blaming and making other people own it to to owning your own feelings,
yeah.
owning your own emotions.
Mhm.
Because when people say, you make me upset, they have nothing to do with it.
That's right. That's right.
It's all what you're thinking and then what you're feeling inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thinking creates the chemicals in the brain that then gets translated as emotions in our body.
Yeah. Can
And
you can you guys imagine that if you had a negative thinking? I just imagine this waterfall of negative energy going into the body. What if it was positive?
well, that's what we want. But here's the thing that I've discovered is that if we're sitting on anger and rage and resentment that we're expressing, we don't feel powerful or safe, that we're not,
Not at all. Right.
we can't feel powerful and safe at all.
Right.
That's just it. So we got to move that energy around. And there's a different ways you can do that. I think that, doing something athletic does help kind of
Yep.
move that energy around. I know that when you're upset and you go to the gym and you work it out, you can come
Right.
and feel differently. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's interesting because the other day, I was just feeling kind of depressed. It was like this overall kind of feeling of not feeling upbeat like I usually am, and I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed with what was going on in my work and all of that. And that night I had a session with one of my clients and we worked on his rage and anger. That's what we were working on. He's an actor. So I do the exercises with him. So we're both going through the anger and the rage, and we're getting it out. And after we got done, he goes, "Wow, I feel so good." And then the next day when I got up, I felt better. And
Of
I
course.
had cut that out. I was like, yeah, this really works.
I've done the same thing too, where I may come to a coaching call and I'm feeling like overwhelmed because I just haven't taken time for myself. And then I show up with my client and they're all rattled.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, let's just stop. Let's just do a PQ rep. And I take a good like maybe 2 or 3 minutes and we just center ourselves. And
Yeah,
even though I'm trying to do it to them, man, I get the benefit out of it.
it's
But
true.
it's the power of energy between two people too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when we do it ourselves, it's always great when we're alone. But when we have another individual in there, and if we can shift the energy in that room, or even if it's on the Zoom call, energy's energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't have to be in the exact room, but you can still feel the energy on a Zoom call. You can feel the energy of another person because how they're speaking, how they're showing up, their body language. You can feel that.
Yeah. 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 That's part of what I do talk about in my book, Truly Be Seen and Heard, is about how what we communicate to other people is about the energy that we're bringing into the room.
Hmm.
It's a we have to it's a for we have to be able to let me go back here. We have to first of all have our mindset right. We can't communicate with anyone in a very effective way if our mindset is all over the place, and you know that, right? I
Exactly.
Yeah, I work a lot with people with intention setting. What's your intention? So my intention to show up for this call was to be really open and helpful and have some fun.
And my intention is always to have fun and have a great organic conversation with the people who come into this podcast with me.
Yeah, and isn't that great when we set that intention, what happens? It's that it really does set that energy again that we can, it's our North Star that we keep going towards.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So I really invite people to think about that and pay attention to, you know, our thoughts create that energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if we're down that path of getting up in the morning and, oh my God, this day's going to suck,
Yep.
then the day's going to suck.
Yeah, it really starts with that first, breath in the morning and
Hmm.
center yourself. And, you can do resets all day long. I had a practice that I was doing a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to start doing it again. Someone suggested it, but I had a timer on my phone that I set for every hour if I could, if I could do it. And it was just a practice of gratitude. So when that alarm went off, I just went, oh, time to feel grateful. Just trying to feel
Nice.
right.
So that's what people experience in my boot camp.
Oh
It's
yeah.
creating that new habit. And so they spend the first week on learning all sorts of different ways to just be in that present moment. But when you do it throughout the day,
Yeah.
you are shifting your brain from that negative continual mindset to a more positive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And practicing that day after day after day, if you did it for 10 seconds a day for the whole year, you're going to shift your brain like 7,700%.
Yeah.
But what if you did it 3 times a day? And I've noticed, and I'm sure even with you and your own work and me and my work, is like I know so many times where I've like blown myself away. It's like, wow, I responded with just such peace and ease and flow with that conversation. And before I would have blown up. I'm just like, good on you, Karen.
That's
So
great. Yeah.
it takes practice, just like the runners, they work out, they practice. But for the mindset, you have to practice. Your actors,
Mm-hmm.
they have to practice being in that energy field to
Right.
create the emotions that are going to be on
Sure.
screen.
Right. And then, so we have that mindset and we're changing the minds. And sometimes what I found, and I found with some other people that my clients say this is true too, is that they start changing the mind, but then they feel like they get a block to it. Like they're starting to get a block. And sometimes what that is old emotional energy that's blocking in our body.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
sometimes what I've asked myself is a few times I've like woken up in the middle of the night with that. You were talking about the energy in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get that when my kids were little, and that was an intuitive hit, and it was always about them.
Wow.
But now that I've done, I mean, they're gone now. And one time I did that. It's like I call all three of them up going, are you guys okay? What's going
Are they
on?
okay? I hope.
Nothing, Mom. What's wrong with you? I'm like, okay, just checking. But if we open up to that intuition in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and so through my work, even on myself, is that now, just like you said, there's like this peeling of the onion.
Yep.
It's this next level, and it just doesn't go away and everything's fixed. We have so much back on our subconscious that we've accumulated all these years since we were born that we
Mm-hmm.
just sort of chisel that away, chisel away, chisel away. And I found more often than not now, I kind of wake up in the middle of the night and I'm feeling this energy.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's just been around the full moon.
Because you're getting in touch with that. Yeah. Science tells us this, quantum physics tells us, right?
Exactly.
We are all energy, we're all vibrating. Everything around us, there is only this one energy flow. And it's hard for us to kind of wrap our brain around that because we are into our five senses, and that's only giving us part of the picture of what's really going on.
exactly. Hold on. So I've learned to, the first time it happened to me, I had talked to one of my mentors, and then the next time it happened to me, I was more open and curious just to release it. There's something in me that needed to be
Oh,
released
yeah.
because, and then it's just like there was this overwhelming, not overwhelming, but just this over sense of calm, more calm in my life. And sometimes we don't need to know what that is. I don't know what it was, but there was something
Yeah.
there that needed to leave. And that was pretty powerful.
Mm.
And like I said before, it was around the full moons. There was something with the full moon that energetically just, and I was listening to an astronomer and about the stars and whatnot, and I'm a Gemini, and I always realized as a child in June my energy's just like on fire.
Uh, It was a couple of, it was last month when all of the planets aligned. Did you hear
Right.
that? That was an interesting evening.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a couple of days, I think. Yeah.
So how would you share with people, how would they know what emotion they're feeling?
Oh, well, I think that it takes practice to kind of look at that. When I teach this, we kind of go through the different energy centers and we start to identify those feelings. So we might say we're looking at the low energy center. That might be anger, but it might be rage. Rage is really uncontrolled, it feels like. But
Sure.
maybe you're irritated. Irritated is a, you can feel that irritation, and if you put your attention low enough, you go like, I'm just irritated. I'm, you know I'm irritated. Okay, I'm annoyed, and
Do you
I'm
get it?
and you can see I can go there that fast, right? So I'm not afraid of those feelings. But
Yeah.
when here's a really good example. um, they were going to go. I live in an apartment here in LA, a really a very old, like built in the 30s with high ceilings and it's French windows everywhere. And they were going to put in air conditioning into my central air, into my apartment, into our building. The last time they went into my apartment building to do something, they were in here for 3 months.
Oh my goodness.
And I had people in every room and it was just horrible. So I heard them talking about it and I was getting really irritated, right? I could feel myself getting really irritated. And I wanted to go out and talk to them and like, what happened last time, right? And I said, identified, yeah, I'm feeling irritated. What is that about? Oh, power and safety. So now I don't feel powerful anymore. So
Right.
I'm going to let myself voice that irritation to myself, get it out, feel it, blow it out. Now I'm in a place that I can go talk to them from more power. So I can have a conversation with them that isn't, like we're not confronting each other anymore.
Right.
Really, really good. Everything turned out great. So I was very happy about that.
So amazing how just the power of shifting, having that awareness of your body
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being able to shift that, identify that and shift it because normally people just react.
That's the problem. Now, I had a somebody who took my class, and she has a teenage daughter, and she came back to class and she said, "I've just discovered something amazing." So my teenage daughter took my makeup and used it, and we had this big blowout about it. I got really mad at her, and then I went back and I realized that I I wasn't feeling respected, or my needs weren't, the need for respect was not being, and respecting of my things, which,
Sure.
so so that your needs and your wants are in your second creative, it's your creative chakra where your needs and wants are, and when that's not being fulfilled, we feel frustrated and we
Sure.
get angry. So when she did that, she said, oh, that's what it's about. She went back to her daughter and she said, I shouldn't have blown up, I'm sorry, but this is about, for me, I need this, have you respect my things and respect me. And you can use my makeup anytime you want, but you need to ask.
Yeah.
So her daughter went, "Oh, mom, thank you." They hugged it out. They had this great moment. And it was because she was able to understand
Identify
what
that.
was going on.
Yeah. It's what a great gift that you bring to people. And it's so needed
Oh my gosh, Karen.
how we need to be open to energy.
Yep. Mm,
And when you can shift that, and there's so many tools out there, and I use the mental fitness side of it, and they learn, all the stuff about all the inner critics and all that stuff. But
yeah.
and you're using the energy centers, but all this kind of goes together.
Mhm.
But if you can be aware of the energy in your body, and in my workshop that I'm teaching, that's coming up next Wednesday, February 26th, unleash your inner champion. But it's the first key to transformation is awareness.
Yes. Yes.
And so the awareness is I'm feeling, well, there's an energy center, and that's very true. There's so many books on that, there's so many studies on that, on any, however you want to do that, but it's energy in your body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
where do you want your energy to be? And where do
You
you
know
want your
what's more?
mindset to be? How do you want to respond in life instead of reacting in life?
Right. So the thought is the thoughts and the emotions and the energy in the body, they connect with each other.
Right.
Another really interesting thing is we talk about the voice. So this is your voice center,
Right?
and it is the bridge between your heart and your mind.
Sure is.
It is, isn't it?
Great, great to point that out.
Yeah.
And so, how do you recommend we use that voice?
Well, I think that because I do a lot of voice work with people too, and I help people find their voice and actually, physically find their voice and express themselves. Because when we don't express ourselves, there's something that gets locked up in us, and I think that it's joy that we're missing when we don't express ourselves. Because
Beautiful.
think about it, if you go on people go on some kind of or you're at a concert and you're singing at the top of your lungs to the song and you don't care if you sound good or not, but you're using your voice and everybody around you is singing and you're cheering at a sporting event
Right?
thing, and you come back home and you go, that was so much fun.
Right. We didn't care. We were expressing ourselves. And I've done that. I've been at a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young concert years ago, and I'm up in the nosebleed section, and I sang every single song.
Yeah, along with everybody else that does it, right? And there's this sort of community energy that happens when everybody's singing. I remember seeing Paul McCartney at Dodger Stadium, and
Oh,
this
cool.
right,
Yeah.
but was singing along, and it was this energy that was undeniable.
So if
Joy.
we could take that energy and incorporate it in every day of our life,
Yes,
if everybody did that, wow.
exactly. Yeah, so it's a practice of watching our mindset, knowing what's going on, because it starts with the mind. If we have this thought, someone cuts me off on the freeway, I'm there it goes again, this guy, this jerk, and then that
Right.
feeds that anger, and then what we have is road rage. That's what happens.
That's right. There's a story that I was reading, and two different people. They both got up late. So character number one was mad because he got up late. Couldn't have breakfast or couldn't get in the shower. Was late for his meeting. Get in the car. It's pouring down rain. He's irritated and mad. It's pouring down rain. He's rushing around on the freeway. No, nothing's moving. And the person behind him doesn't even pay attention, tapped his bumper. He gets out, rages on her car, ends up in jail.
Yep.
So, what was his first thought? Mad because he got up late.
Mhm. He carried that with him
Yeah.
through the whole
The
morning.
second guy, oh, I got up late. Well, I'm late anyways. Might as well have a good breakfast, take a shower, and get myself out the door. It's raining anyways. And then in the car on the freeway, pouring down rain, traffic is all stopped, and finding out that the person he's going to meet with, well, she's late too. And then the person behind taps his bumper. He gets out and it's like, hey, good to meet you. And she's like, well, I just hit your car. It didn't even hurt my car, but we would never have met if you didn't tap me. So the
Right.
difference, how we can wake up in the morning with rage
Mm-hmm.
or peace and calm.
Yeah, the alarm goes off and I go, oh, I gotta get up, and then or it could be rage, it could even be it could be worry, I gotta get so much
Yeah,
to do today. I don't know how am I gonna get everything done. And
right.
and that just perpetuates itself. And then what happens, when you're in that state, what happens? This is really common. You go and you have your cup of coffee and you trip and you spill the cup of coffee. Now you got to clean up the cup of coffee.
Oh, my cup of coffee. Oh no.
Because you were like in the state of whatever, instead of saying, oh, it's okay, I'm going to get everything done today. And what I don't get done, I'll do tomorrow.
Right. Find acceptance.
Acceptance is a really big thing, isn't it?
Hmm. Find acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah. Change it. Accepting the things that, really moving forward for the things that we can change in our life. And when we can't change something in the moment, it's let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, we have in the sage perspective, it's either accept, you have a choice of accepting or converting it.
Yeah. I have one of the things I teach is I call the emotional awareness practice. And the
Nice.
acronym is AHA. So A is for accept. So start to pay attention to your own emotions and people around you, right?
Right.
And just without judging them, just start to pay attention to them, accept that you have these feelings. Then you honor them. So you write them down, you honor what you're feeling today, what you felt in the past, just because they're just emotions. They're part of your life story. And
Right.
you appreciate that really none of your emotions are bad. We
Right.
just the way we think about them.
Right.
And to know that their emotions are a big part of what it means to live a rich and a full human life. And that the negative,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Yes.
And the negative emotions and even the positive emotions bring attention to what's important to us.
Yes.
So if I'm irritated, why I was back to that story, how I was irritated about them putting in the air conditioning units in my apartment.
Right.
So if I'm irritated, what's that bringing attention to? That I value peace in my apartment, that I value peace in my life, that I
Right.
value, my home,
Right.
and that I should, as I do that, how can I now express that to somebody? So it's accept, honor, and appreciate.
I love that. And what a great thing that people can take away, the aha moment.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Aha, I accept, honor, and appreciate.
It's an interesting thing. It's like I encourage people to take a journal out and write down things about, when I was angry, when I was sad, when I was joyful, when a time I remember, and I remember joy I wrote down in my own journal was that when my sister got married, when my father was walking her down the aisle, I was just so full of joy in that moment. And
How cool.
you can see what just happened to me. I just kind of relived that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joy is um there's a sense of inner calmness.
Oh,
There's a sense of it isn't just being happy, but there's a deepness to that. There's a deep feeling of the essence of love
yep.
and being in that element of just joy.
Yes. I would add too, and that it's deep because it's all of the energy centers being open, all of them.
Yes.
And then the opposite of joy is depression, which is all of them being
Shut
closed,
down. Yeah.
shut down. Yeah.
Yeah.
When our energy is shut down, that's when we're in that depressed state.
Right. Thank you, Faith. Oh my gosh.
This is so fun.
I know. So I want to say the aha moment, but do you have any other tools you would want to share with the guests who are listening to this?
Well, I think the aha moment is really
Yeah.
great. You
I
know,
think so too.
I think it really is. Start to accept that you have these feelings and then honor them. Write them down. I like to write them down because it's like, I was angry today. What happened there? And then what thought did I have? You could even go onto that and then appreciate that you have these feelings. They're there for a reason. It's what makes us human to have these emotions. And so the aha moment would be really good. I would also say, to start using language like I feel nervous instead of I am nervous.
Right. That's a great switch on words, and that's very powerful.
It is powerful because if I say I am nervous, I'm in that all the time. If I say I feel nervous, it's only temporary. A feeling is only temporary.
Right. And I love the fact that you mentioned that they're not good or bad. And I learned that too, is that's one beauty of us being human. It's one of the gifts that we have is that we have emotions and they're neither good or bad.
If you watch a toddler, they have the full range of emotions. Imagine, right? It's like and then the minute later, they're like laughing like crazy.
Stand up to run, fall flat in their face, get up and do it again.
So true. I'd love to use this one. It's like, I'm going to there's one more thing to take with you. I would say practice awe.
Yeah,
I was saying that a little kid can look at a worm and go,
yeah,
but that's crazy, right? We don't look at the sky and go, oh my gosh, look at the beauty of this sky.
right.
And if you went through your day and just started practicing awe,
Well, that's a great, oh my gosh, that just brought so much to my mind. Um, when people go out and run, do you look? Do we really look around?
yeah,
And how many times do you recognize that tree and take it that every moment is a moment of awe? I
yes,
love this because even in your house. So what I've coached people on in running marathons, like, oh my gosh, at mile 18, we're going to feel this way because I did that in the past. I said, well, you don't have to because you've never been at this moment in your life ever before, ever, or this moment, or this moment. And if you look at the perspective of that, of being in awe, it's the first time I've seen this computer at this moment.
look what this computer does. I'm
What what can you do to become a little 4-year-old and be in awe?
yeah,
We
I
lost that as an adult.
yeah, and we can get it back. We can
Mhm. Yeah, that brought a memory of my kid, my oldest boy, who was probably 3, and he was picking up the little honeybees that were on all my plants right out the front door by their wings.
oh my goodness.
He was picking them all up and playing with them. I'm like, good, Taryn. That's really good. Mom, look.
That's that worm thing where they go, you know.
So be in awe, everybody.
Yes. So yeah, the aha moment and be in awe.
Be in awe. I love that. Faith, thank you so much.
Yeah. Can I
Thank
mention what's coming up for me as that goes?
Oh, I would love to that. Thank you. What is coming up? And I will like to share it with
Okay.
everybody, how they
Sure.
can get a hold of you.
Well, you can get a hold of me on my website at raisingyouриmpact.com. Raising,
Beautiful.
raisingyouриmpact.com. And you can also Faith at raisingyourimpact.com would be an email that you could but go to the website. And on my website, you'll see the courses and things that are coming up. And I have an Unlock and Empower Your Emotions 8-week class that's coming up. So course for 8 weeks. It starts April 23rd. And we'll go deep into all of these things that I've been talking about through 8 weeks, going through all of the energy centers in our body.
Oh, nice. At raisingyouриmpact.com. Thank you, Faith.
You're welcome. Thanks, Karen.
All righty. Thank you so much.